animal control to order. I think the first thing is you got a set of minutes in your hand, take a look and
Make a motion we approve.
second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so minutes have been approved. Do we have any public comment for animal control in the room? All right. No public comment? We'll move on and let Steve talk about the director's report.
You got a report in front of you. It's been a couple of months since we've sat down and talked here. I think our numbers are pretty good right now. I'm happy with where we're at. We're doing really good at getting dogs back to their owners. And we've had a lot of adoptions lately. We've had a lot of good things happening. So, like I said, while y'all were looking at that, I'm going to tell you a couple of things we had done. We completed our classes with the sheriff's department. We provided classes 10 different times, and we trained all the certified sheriff's deputies that went to their in-service on what animal control does, what we can do for them. We'll talk with our people about what they can do for us, and I feel like we have improved that relationship really well, and I see the benefits of that already. I think it helps us on our call outs. We've got things kind of clear that we're really needed before we go out now. And I think that's a benefit that we'll keep realizing. On September 16th, we began our volunteer organization. We now have 19 members. And since September the 16th, we've logged 200 plus hours of volunteer time. Volunteers do enrichment and dog walking, and it's a big deal. 7 a.m. when we get there, we get to work. The volunteers show up and start helping, and they're walking dogs. And so our people can concentrate on animal care, on cleaning, the things that we have to do. And we were able to get those dogs out and get them moving and get things done. And we really see the benefit. The kennel's quieter. The dogs are easier to adopt, and a dog that is happier is also safer. So it's a safer environment for the employees, and I'm just really thrilled. I had not planned on being this far along. It's really kind of taken off, and it's been a really good thing. So we're really proud of that. On September the 28th, we hosted a chip and vaccine clinic. We had some grant money, and we purchased parvo and distemper vaccinations. A chip company gave us a large amount of chips, and this group had given us some money out of our fund a few months prior to that for rabies vaccinations. We were able to do 100 dogs that day with free chips, free parvo distemper, and free rabies vaccinations. Those were for Wilson County citizens. And so we had a lot of folks tell us how much it helped them out. We had a lot of stories about how they don't know if they would have gotten their dog vaccinated this year or not. And so, and the residual off of that is being able to put that out on social media, being able to let people talk about that and the importance of. We've had a rabies case in Wilson County this year. So it's super important that we keep getting the word out. You gotta vaccinate your dog. Talked with a gentleman today who said there was a skunk wandering around in his yard during the day. The skunk is now dead, and he knows it was in his neighbor's yard at one point, and his neighbor has dogs. So we immediately went out and talked to his neighbor about watching his dogs, what they needed to do, and made sure, and luckily that neighbor had vaccinated their dogs, but it's a very good possibility that it's skunk was rabid. And so super important. We feel like that was a great community outreach program, and we're really proud of the numbers we got off of that. Hopefully we can do that again next year. The last thing is our social media networking has really taken off, and our TV station is just done a fantastic job. She's filmed a couple spots for us, and if you look at the views on that, she's a pro, and boy, it makes a big difference. We have adopted dogs to folks from Alcoa and folks from Knoxville that drove all the way here after seeing this on social media. And it really works. I've also fielded phone calls from people in Alabama and people in Michigan. And I had somebody come in from Michigan, but the people from Knoxville or Alcoa got here first, wanting that one. And so we had to call them and go, hey, sorry, dog got adopted. You'll like this one because that was ugly.
Oh, sweet border.
It's a really good dog. And
I thought I was gonna take him home.
so we know that networking works. We know that getting that word out works. And so we continue to educate and preach about the vaccines and about spay and neuter. So that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Steve? No? All right, any motion to accept the director's report?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Aye, great. So on to the big business for tonight. So I know this department's been looking for a new home for the last, what, 3, 4, 5 years, what, Bill? 10, okay, all right, yes. And after looking and trying to find something that fit, I think we finally might have a solution. So Steve has passed it out and he'll give you more information about the graphic itself, but the road commission building on Tennessee Boulevard, the road commission has decided to sell it. So we're hoping that this works out to be a good home for us. So do you want to talk about?
So as y'all see, I used my expert pen here and made a drawing on here. So I don't recall the exact acreage, 3 point something or other. 3.47. Okay. 3.47 acres opens on Tennessee Boulevard with a 4,400 square foot building. Parking, driveway, utilities are already in place, including an 8-inch sewer main, which is a big deal to us. I've taken Robert Baines with me out and we've looked at the building. And it's the first time I had been through it the other day. If I sat down here today and said, guys, I need to build a new building, I couldn't have designed one better as far as the office part for us. You see, I drew a square on the back. We need about somewhere in the neighborhood of between 5,000 and 6,000 square feet of utility space. Now that would be dog kennels. That is things like grooming, laundry, warehouse, where we store food and things like that. We would also include in that a sally port or a garage that the trucks pull in to unload an animal and would be much safer than not having that. I kind of denoted the lines there around what between us, and if you look to the I guess the way you're looking at it would be to the right, you see a vehicle parked, a white vehicle parked along that dotted line. So that area is road commission. In the other side with all the vehicles and stuff around, that is a construction company. So across the street's a warehouse, trucking company. So there's nobody, right behind it is fairground. There's no people living around it. What we would propose is a all inside kennel facility. In other words, if the dogs go out, they only go out with a person during enrichment, during training, during dog walking. But day-to-day life, they live within a double-sided kennel that's inside the facility. I've studied about this and I've been to some classes on it. I follow a lady from Florida named Sarah Pisano, who is a leading expert in shelter medicine. And I actually carry her book with me. She's got a best practices book out. Recently, Sumter County went through a complete evaluation. Sarah Pisano is who came in and told them what they needed to do. Williamson County built a new facility years ago. Sarah Pisano is who came in and told them what they needed and how to do it and advised them. And she still comes back on a yearly basis and re-inspects them. So I follow her and what she says. The ideas that I have about this all come from an expert. This is not Steve talking. This is what I have learned from other folks. So I feel like that would carry us through for several years. But I also think that there's lots of room here should we in the future ever need to expand. So I think this presents us an opportunity to have a facility that will carry us through for the foreseeable future.
What do you, I mean, how many places do you have currently for dogs?
So right now, we have 12 back-to-back kennels, and we have 6 more 4x4 kennels alone. And when I say back-to-back, they're 4 foot on either side with a trap door in the middle. Now, at current standards, that would be for one dog, and that dog would have a place that he could sleep and then eat, and then the other side, he could do his business if he needed to. And those are separate, distinct areas. Now, unfortunately, because of the size facility we've got, we rarely use those as singles. Those are generally double. The divider door stays down, so they're within a 4x4 area most of the time. That's why it's super important right now that we get them out as often as we can, because they're living in a super small spot.
So if you're full, if everything's got a dog in it, how many dogs can you house at one time?
We can house about 26, about 28 would cover all of those. What we've got right now, if we didn't use the back.
The facility that you're looking at, if we built it out the way you're thinking, what would be the number?
What I'm thinking right now is 40. And let me tell you why. That doesn't seem like a huge expansion. But what we're doing is we've learned through some of these processes that we can do a better job day to day. And we bring an expert in right now, they're going to say, these things right here reduce your numbers. So we're working on the length of stay in the kennel. You can't house a dog for a year. You got to figure out a way to keep that from happening. So I'm down now to my current average on hand is 21 and a half at any one time. So I've got the kennel down from 28 or 29 when I started to 21 and a half as our daily average. We need to maintain or reduce that. And we need to keep that up. We can't just go out here and say we're going to build 100 kennels because we can bring that many dogs in. I could fill that up, but that doesn't solve our problem. And so kennels are part of a tool that we need, but to solve our problems on a day-to-day basis about dogs running at large, and stray dogs, it is to be our programs and what we're doing. I feel like that 30 kennels for dogs that are up for adoption, and then 10 kennels for dogs that are on hold or for some reason in quarantine. There'll be another few spaces within a medical area for a dog that is sick that really needs to be in a small spot. But of the kennels we're going to go out and buy, I think 40 is probably our number. Now, let me qualify that with I'm not an expert, and we need at some point to phone a friend here. And I think as we move along, we may want to consider bringing in a consultant. And I'll talk to some people. And basically what they do is they look at your numbers, they look at your whole process, and then they come back and go, we think you should be doing this, and this is the number you should do.
So I guess the first question is, does anybody else have any more questions specifically about this building or?
And let me clarify one more thing here. So when I'm talking about building 40 kennels, that's 40 individual back-to-backs. And now I have 12 individual back-to-backs. So that doesn't seem like I'm increasing dramatically, but I'm increasing dramatically. So.
Will this increase your staff?
So I don't think so. One of the great things about this building right here and the design that I'm thinking right now is that one person can control the public area using a key fob system and cameras. They can kind of keep up with the areas that the public would be in. All right. We always are going to, we're a 7-day-a-week operation. We're always going to have that. In July, I was given by this group 2 more full-time positions, and we changed a full-time person that was 30 hours to a full-time person that was 40. And so now with the people we got and with our volunteer program, I feel like that we're gonna be able to staff this and run it. Now, if our expert comes in and goes, well, we think you need twice this, then I may come back and say, well, I was wrong, but I really feel like we're gonna be able to make it with what we got.
So I think the first thing we need to decide is if we as a committee would like to try to purchase this particular building.
What was what did they assess value of it?
1.78.
And I've asked Aaron to come this evening so he can kind of address the financing side of things.
Yeah,
No,
I think, this is something that's needed for growth. I know this is an existing building, but for animal control, he's talking about how, increasing capacity, and obviously we have more people, the more people we have, the more domesticated or semi-domesticated animals. So I think you can tie this to growth pretty easily if you want to do without capital projects.
okay. And I went back and checked the current fund balance after we took the 60,000 out from PEG that passed last night. Current fund balance for capital projects is $15,737,895.67. So we do have funds of 189 to do this, so.
Mayor, can I put you on the spot on something? Sure can. I was looking at, this land, first of all, this land was donated to the county for $1.
Not really.
What the paperwork says.
What the paperwork says, but as I told Lauren, there's always another story that goes with it, the one that gives property away. So we dug into it, and what happened was, those people that's listed on that deed bought that property because it was on foreclosure. And so they gave it to the county in exchange for building the road all the way to Tennessee Boulevard, all the way through there. So that's how they got the property. And I had to dig it and find that out, but I knew that was gonna come up at some point. So I don't know what that road cost them. But so that road is, whatever that cost them is what the property is worth. And then the building itself was, and I have the numbers on the building.
It's 508,000,
$508,000.
and road commission did pay that out of their funds.
So the property is still worth the 1.78. And I think even if grandmama gave you her farm and I wanted to buy it and said, well, you didn't pay anything for it, give it to me, you're gonna say, hey, forget it, I'm gonna charge you what I think it's worth. So I think the road commission would pull that hard line. Now, at the same time, I think, we talked to Josh Major, and hooked him and Steve together because there was some concerns about the animals getting close to the cattle. For example, if somebody a teenager was out there watching a cow ready for show and a dog charged the fence, spooked the cow and the cow hurt the child. That was one thing he had a problem with. Also an issue of, they all ride back there as they get ready before they enter the arena that could spook a horse and that could throw somebody. But we hooked them together and y'all have solved that problem.
I feel like we have. I think the modern methods that we use to build, so we're not gonna have a sound issue from our building. And then, I told him we can do about anything he wants back there as far as building a fence. And he wants it 10 foot high, we'll build a fence 10 foot high. I need, for my purposes, for it to be blocked off. So we're working with the dog. I don't want a dog to see a person, a truck, a cow, anything back there, because he needs to be concentrating on what we're doing. And so that, one of the keys to our program is controlling what their sensory input is. So we have to have it blocked off anyways. So I really feel like we've got that covered.
What about the road?
So we would screen that fence back there.
Yes.
And as he talked about, all animals going out would be on a leash with somebody.
Right.
So they saw, that's where the animal problem that we heard come up at.
Yeah.
Then we talked about the road. And I think that's what you see, Steve, that's kind of dotted here. And so he is looking into that about, maybe the ag committee purchasing that portion. So that would cut down, a portion of this price. Then I think if you would elect somebody and myself or two, help negotiate, we probably go and go and talk with Steve about it, okay, and Josh and say, how do we make all this work and what is the right figure? I mean, we know what the appraisal is, but just kind of go and see. Yeah, I mean, if this committee rents that property, you showed up the other day at our road commission meeting and heard them say that they're willing to sell or trade or transfer, whichever. So we know that. So next month, Mike is gonna come back and give us the protocol. If we wanted to sell it, that's how we ought to do it, kind of like what we do with tourism. Or if we wanted to transfer it between governmental departments, we could do so. And I think at that time, we have that meeting, then probably afterwards sit down and say, okay, let's work on a price. We might even be able to work on the price before that happens. If this committee today says, hey, we have an interest in pursuing this, and I do think the funds will come from capital projects, and I think it's an okay fit. That's what you want to do.
So I think if we want to move forward, we need to do two things. So first, we need to vote that we want to, as a committee, want to move forward and try to purchase the building. So if that's something we want to do, I could entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, second. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so we officially decided as a committee that we would like to pursue purchasing the building. So the second thing is to give the authority to Mayor Hutto, myself, and Wendell as budget chair to negotiate a price with the road for the building. So if I could entertain a motion to allow us to move forward to do that. All right. So I have a motion, second. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. So at that point, so now we voted to authorize us to do some negotiations. Once we come up with a price, it'll come back to this committee and we'll decide, based on that price, if we want to move forward from there, what the funding would look like. And then from there, it would move forward to budget and the full commission, and then the money could then be transferred over to roads and so on. So that's kind of what the next steps look like. And I'll ask Robert Baines to come tonight because I know he's actually walked through the building with Steve. Because I know, we'd have the purchase price of the building, but we also have, the amount of money that would have to, to build the kennel building and anything that needs to be done to the building itself that's, currently there. Do you have, and I know this is a very rough estimate and probably, but could you give us just like a rough top end? If you have an idea.
Oh, there's a lot of things that go into consideration. There's a little bit of excavating that's got to be done out there to the property, not much. And around the average market right now for commercial buildings per square foot, that's just with no excavating, no civil work and nothing else being done to it. It's about $250 to $300 a square foot. So just figure on, that is your a goal for the amount of square footage you want to build. So that's what you're looking at as far as the average for this area here that's going around.
Yes, sir.
So knowing conversations with Steve, he had talked about if you guys purchase this and he wanted to bring in a consultant maybe that would come and look at what this building actually would look like, the additional part, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, I mean, once you purchase it, you've got some time. That would also come out of capital projects as well. But I know, our guys could do it, but I thought you wanted to get something.
So I've had a pretty good talk with them, and I just point blank asked her on the phone yesterday. I said, so look, if they approve this and I want you to come in and do your initial estimate. And what they'll do is they'll do a site visit. They'll evaluate the existing building, anything that needs to be done. They'll check the infrastructure that's there. They will look at local codes, building regulations, architecture, the whole bit. They'll come back and look at our numbers at the shelter and say, how many dogs we brought in, how many we bringing in a year, what programs we have going on. And then they'll come back and say, this is the square footage we think you need. This is a design idea we've got, and this is what we think it will cost you. And these people, this is all they do. Animal facilities is all they do. And so they understand about the specific plumbing needs. They understand about the specifics when it comes to the heat and air, which is a big, big deal. We fight this fight constantly now at the shelter because of the moisture, because of odors and disease control, and the issues we have with using basically a residential machine when we ought to have the correct stuff in there. And so, and I just laid it out to her and I gave her, so what's this gonna cost? And I need a number. And she said basically in the neighborhood of $9,000 or $10,000, they could come back and give us a ballpark price and give us some pretty good estimate of what goes on. Anything further beyond that, we wouldn't be obligated until we signed a contract with them. But they could manage the project to all the way through, obviously at a different price. But I feel like that's money well spent. Because I can sit here all day long and say, I've read a lot about this, but it's not what I've done my whole life. And so I want to make sure when we do this, that we're spending our money correctly. And I feel like that'd be money well spent.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think from here, I guess the next steps is to try to negotiate the price and then bring it back to this committee. Do you think that we could meet December 3rd? That would be, because that's our normal committee night, because we moved it from the Thursday to the Tuesday. Does that give us enough time, do you think, to reconvene or?
We'll work on it.
Okay, all right. Well, that'll be the goal then. It'll be public noticed if we actually, have the meeting on the 3rd, but tentatively, that'll be the goal.
So,
But road commission doesn't meet till the 5th,
yeah, so it really wouldn't help you to meet on the 3rd because we'll meet on the 5th that morning.
right?
And you won't meet on the 5th because you moved your meetings to the 3rd. So, whatever transactions we have that morning, you actually couldn't meet that afternoon or that night because enough is enough, doesn't start until
Till 6,
till 6.
Right.
If you wanted to meet a little earlier,
okay,
to act on any transaction you need to act on, you could. If you feel like
Do that.
it's something that you gotta get done in December, I mean, once you make the call, you can, once you make that call and you feel like it's pretty good there, you can, turn Steven down the loose at work and, you don't have to do it until January, but if you wanna move it on,
Okay.
yeah.
do you want to tentatively do that then? So tentatively set something for December 5th, like at 4:30 or 5, something like that? And then Wendell, we could convene budget right before county commission if needed.
We need to.
If we need to, like a. So, okay,
As long as everybody's on board, and I don't think they would think it's a rush. That's one thing we have, when we do sometime, everybody on board, I don't know why anybody wouldn't.
right, okay. All right, well, we have a tentative timeline then, so.
So December 5th at 4:30.
Does 4:30 work for everybody? Is that early? Is that too early then? Or is that for any, just for the one time? Okay,
You wouldn't leave me, I don't think, so.
yeah, no, yeah, I wouldn't. Unless there's a.
Just need you, Randall.
So, all right, does anybody else have anything?
And what's the reason for this, for the next meeting? What are we trying to accomplish at the next meeting?
Well, I think it would be that we would hopefully have a price negotiated that could then come back to this committee and we could decide as to whether or not we would like to take action on that price. And then that would be approved here and then potentially go through budget and then commission.
So
So,
we'll work between now and in December the 5th with, Josh and, Steve Murphy and, ourselves and we come up with how this all shakes out and then bring it back to this committee, on that particular night. And if you, let's just say we get it down to what we share that cost and everybody's agreeable, then, we would present that probably that day on the 5th at the road commission meeting. They're good with it then, and your committee with me, if they're good with it, then this goes on to the county commission in the month of December.
all right, sounds good. Does anybody have anything else? Are we all comfortable with the direction we're going? I know I'm really excited about this. I know it's been a long time coming, it's said. All right, I think that's it. One more motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Perfect, thank you.